Thank you, Mr. Chairman. General Haugh, I appreciated our discussion on the pressing topic of cyber threats to the United States critical infrastructure. I appreciate the work that CYBERCOM and NSA have done to share these threats with the public. As you outline in your cyber advisory, cyber organizations linked to China are compromising the communications, energy, transportation, water, and wastewater organization in the United States and its territories. Do you view these attacks as primarily aimed at as exfiltrating data or as Chinese cyber actors positioning themselves to cause severe disruptions to U.S. critical infrastructure in advance of or during a potential conflict?
Senator, thank you very much for the question. I think one of the primary things that we see as opportunity as U.S. Cyber Command is to expose these activities to the broadest audience we can. And we do that with all of our partners. Principal to that is the National Security Agency. In this case, I cannot see a reason from a foreign intelligence perspective why anyone would target critical infrastructure. So I am very concerned that these would be a prepositioning for a potential crisis.
And as these continue, how's CYBERCOM leveraging its expertise and technical capabilities to alert the department and the American public and develop mitigation strategies?
Senator, we start really everything that we look at, if we're seeing a campaign and how we approach a threatening series of activities, we start with generating insights. How do we understand what is happening and how do we communicate that to the maximum number of organizations possible? How do we enable defense? Whether that's partnering with another combatant command like STRATCOM when we think about our strategic capabilities, or TRANSCOM for global logistics, or NORTHCOM in terms of defense critical infrastructure, how do we enable their defense? And then we also deliver options of how we would impose costs, whether directly or through our interagency partners. So we approach that at every step, but really what we see as one of the most impactful things is exposing and then giving the techniques for how to identify these activities so they can be countered by multiple organizations.
How's CYBERCOM working with our allies, with our partners to help them identify these threats as well that they might be facing towards their critical infrastructure?
So first, we do the same thing, which is you'll see on many of those cybersecurity advisories, it starts with who do we bring in that will have information that will help illuminate this threat? In many cases, that's industry, and it's also our foreign partners. So on many of those seals across the top of those advisories, you'll see many nations, and that'll include our Five Eye partners. We've also done them with Japan, and you'll see that grow as we continue to expand those partnerships and we share information.
Okay, thank you. Over the last few decades, U.S. Special Operation Forces have been used primarily for counterterrorism operations. A conflict in the Indo-Pacific, however, would likely look much different. General Fenton, can you explain to this committee how you envision Special Operation Forces being used prior to and in a conflict with China?
Senator, I absolutely can. And I'll start by saying, in essence, that's what Special Operations was born for from the earliest of times. And I think for us, we really take it all the way back to the Office of Strategic Services in 1942. It was about giving the Allies, and at that point, both in the East and in the European and Pacific theater, an advantage, and giving any adversary dilemmas, being behind enemy lines, developing networks, building partners and allies. That is absolutely transferred to today. And as I like to think about it, with 80 years or 8 decades of experience, 20 of those being in combat and the counterterrorism piece, a bit of a soft renaissance. So what that looks like in many ways today with the changing character and certainly environment, a number. Partners and allies build continues. Developing capabilities forward, your special operators sensing the environment and bringing combatant commanders options and advantages they may not otherwise have, in particular with my teammate in Cybercom and in Spacecom as a sort of a nexus that allow us to get synergy, and also presenting dilemmas and disadvantages to any adversary. Almost 1,000 points of friction before conflict to prevent conflict. And I think also hold the remit as well for crisis response and counterterrorism, because we can never let those drop.
Thank you. Secretary Meyer, do you have anything to add to that?
I would say, Senator Fischer, what SOF brings to especially a large-scale combat operation type environment is the ability to extend capabilities of the joint force, cyber, space, others, and do it in a precise and risk-managed way, and we can do it in very small footprints. And that, I think, is going to be incredibly important in the Indo-Pacific, where everybody's going to be looking at their magazine depth and figuring out what is a higher priority target. If you can hide in the noise, you have an advantage, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.